Zsa Zsa Gabor was the epitome of Hollywood glamour and European elegance, a woman who turned personal style into an art form long before social media even existed. Born Sari Gabor on February 6, 1917, in Budapest, Hungary, she grew up in the final years of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, a twilight era of glitzy balls, opulent horse-drawn carriages, and old-world courtesies that would inform her signature persona throughout her life. Zsa Zsa was the middle sister of three, with Magda Gabor as the eldest, and Eva Gabor the youngest. Together they became known as the glamorous Gabor sisters, each forging her own path in film, television, or socialite circles. Their mother, Jolie Gabor, was a formidable and ambitious woman who raised her daughters to appreciate beauty, cultivate sophisticated manners, and see the world as a place where personal connections could open every door. Zsa Zsa's first step toward the spotlight came when she was crowned Miss Hungary in 1936. Or so she often claimed, though some accounts say she was a competitor rather than the ultimate winner. Either way, her participation in the Miss Hungary pageant offered a taste of public adoration, setting the stage for an entire life spent courting camera lenses and the attention of famous admirers. Soon after, as tensions began to rise in Europe leading up to World War II, the Gabor family realized that staying in Budapest might be perilous. They made their way to the United States by the late 1930s, a move that shaped Zsa Zsa's destiny. While many immigrants arrived in search of economic survival, she came determined to sparkle among Hollywood's elite, blending Hungarian charm with her mother's knack for forging connections. During her early years in America, Zsa Zsa picked up English, learned to navigate the labyrinth of social gatherings, and discovered that her wit, an appealing mix of Hungarian accent, comedic timing, and playful flirtation, could make her as notable at a dinner party as any leading lady on the silver screen. She developed a signature style of addressing everyone, male or female, with her trademark greeting, darling, or more precisely, darling, as it rolled off her tongue with a soft accent. The press quickly caught wind of her unique blend of old European flamboyance and Hollywood showmanship, and she found herself in newspaper columns, attending glamorous Hollywood parties, mingling with the city's most influential figures, from moguls to established stars. As for her film career, Zsa Zsa never pretended to be a great dramatic actress, yet she charmed audiences in movies like Moulin Rouge, 1952, and Lili, also from the early 1950s. She approached acting with the same sense of play she brought to social events, delivering lines with comedic flair and wearing magnificent costumes that accentuated her well-coiffed blonde hair and perfect posture. Her on-screen presence, though sporadic, ranged from comedic roles, where her breezy line delivery suited the atmosphere, to minor dramatic appearances that showcased a more serious side. Despite that, the public often focused more on her real-life persona than on her film roles. One reason for this skewed focus was her extraordinary skill at staying in the news. Zsa Zsa Gabor embraced the concept of personal branding long before there were social media influencers. She graced talk shows like The Tonight Show, game shows, and even cameo appearances in later years, always quick with a quip about love, marriage, or the joys of a lavish lifestyle. Her one-liners about men and money became legendary. She once joked, "I never hated a man enough to give him his diamonds back," capturing the breezy, comedic approach to marriage for which she became famous. And her comedic remarks about, "I am a marvelous housekeeper. Every time I divorce a man, I keep his house," further solidified her reputation as a quick-witted star who navigated relationships as if they were part of her personal brand. Her many marriages, 9 in total, were tabloid fodder that rivaled the romances of Elizabeth Taylor or Joan Collins. Each husband had a story, from Turkish diplomat Burhan Belge, her first, to hotel magnate Conrad Hilton, to actor George Sanders, and eventually to Frederick Prince von Anhalt, who remained by her side until her final days. In truth, the complexities of these unions often overshadowed the details of her personal life, sometimes comedic, sometimes bittersweet, always overshadowed by her relentless sense of drama. She was no stranger to heartbreak, but she wore adversity with rhinestone-studded resilience, forging ahead in the public sphere with a beaming smile. Zsa Zsa's flamboyant style extended to the houses she called home. Rarely content with simple dwellings, she sought places that mirrored her personality, opulent, striking, and perfect for entertaining. Over the years, 2 residences, her pink house in Palm Springs and her final Bel Air estate, became emblematic of her flair and the old Hollywood tradition of living extravagantly. The pink house was perched in the upscale Little Tuscany neighborhood of Palm Springs, a desert oasis known for mid-century architecture and for attracting Hollywood's elite as a getaway from Los Angeles. The property was built in 1964 by Magda's then-husband, Arthur Tony Gallucci, and had the sort of mid-century lines that architects of the day admired, but it was given a flamboyant pink exterior, which immediately turned heads. That luscious pink facade spoke volumes about its occupant, a real-life extension of Zsa Zsa's flamboyant press persona. Indeed, she would share it with her sister Magda, and Eva would also visit. All the Gabor sisters appreciated dramatic touches like mirrored walls, gold-trimmed fixtures, and plush carpets. In this Palm Springs house, Zsa Zsa's entertaining was in full swing, with constant gatherings of actors, producers, local politicians, and socialite friends. She might host an afternoon champagne lunch by the pool or an evening salon in the living room, draped in diamonds and wearing an elegant gown. Surrounded by photographs of her family, portraits of herself, ornate chandeliers, and an occasional Hungarian keepsake from her youth, Zsa Zsa found ways to blend European heritage with the desert's breezy lifestyle. The interior design of that Palm Springs home included mid-century aesthetics, layered with Hollywood Regency touches. The floors often boasted stone or marble, reflecting the 1960s love for natural materials, while mirrored walls offered that reflective illusion of infinite space. Zsa Zsa loved how the mirrors caught the light and intensified the shimmering effect of her crystal-laden decor. Grand chandeliers hung overhead, as if to say that no hour of the day was too early for a little glamour. Gilded frames, plush sofas, and touches of pink throughout the house lent an air of unrestrained extravagance. The kitchen, with its gold-leafed ceiling, was rumored to have witnessed more than a few comedic cooking lessons. Zsa Zsa could be surprisingly down-to-earth in the kitchen, quipping that preparing Hungarian goulash was her secret weapon for winning a man's heart. "Darlings, this is the dish I use to catch a man, and if I want to get rid of him, I stop making it," she joked, an arch nod to her comedic take on marital ups and downs. Yet for all her comedic flair, she also had a genuine interest in ensuring her guests felt pampered. The outdoor area was no less spectacular. A mosaic-tiled pool flanked by a statue or two sat amid a stone deck that afforded a panoramic vista of the mountains and the cityscape beyond. The property's elevation guaranteed sweeping views, especially at night when the desert lights would shimmer in the distance. This vantage point gave a sense of regal detachment from the bustle of everyday life, and guests at her famed soirees would gather around the pool, sipping cocktails, discussing the latest Hollywood gossip, while a gentle breeze carried the desert air. Fire pits and comfortable seating offered cozy spots to lounge in the cooler evenings, and the Gabor sisters sometimes brought out portable record players or invited live musicians for entertainment. Over time, that pink house changed hands, passing from owners who admired its history and location. In 2020, interior designer Tracy Turco and her husband purchased the property for just under $2 million, dedicated to preserving its legacy. The goal was to weave modern convenience into the original statement pieces, from the ornate chandeliers to the stone flooring that whispered of countless Gabor gatherings. They brightened the place with colorful wallpaper and fresh paint, but kept the flamboyant pink exterior. In an era that often discards mid-century properties, their efforts honored both the historical significance of Palm Springs' architectural heritage and the distinctive cultural footprint of the Gabor sisters. Yet even the pink house was not the only star of Zsa Zsa's real estate portfolio. While she visited that desert sanctuary frequently, especially in the 1960s and 1970s, her most enduring residency was in Bel Air, California, perched high on a hill that overlooked Los Angeles. This property, built in 1955, came with a pedigree that read like a who's who of 20th century icons. The legendary aviation mogul Howard Hughes reportedly had a hand in constructing or shaping it, and Elvis Presley once owned it as well, leaving behind intangible traces of his flamboyant life. When Zsa Zsa and her final husband, Frederick Prince von Anhalt, took over the mansion, it was already a piece of living Hollywood history. She relished the interior's mid-century design, the circular foyer, the crown molding, the floor-to-ceiling windows that let in streams of California sunshine, and the interior columns that gave the living areas a sense of stately grandeur. She quickly added her signature touches: art pieces, plush furniture, glimmering chandeliers, and an overall vibe of fuss-free opulence. If her pink house in Palm Springs was about bright color and desert whimsy, this Bel Air estate was about classic Hollywood Regency. Beyond the front door, the living spaces were reminiscent of the lavish sets from Golden Age pictures. In particular, a grand salon featuring floor-to-ceiling windows that faced the skyline was the jewel in the property's crown. Guests who arrived were invited to linger there, sipping champagne or nibbling on small bites as they gazed upon the vast city below. On a clear evening, the twinkling lights of Los Angeles could have felt like an extension of Zsa Zsa's own electric aura, shining with the promise that anything was possible in Tinseltown. She sometimes hosted intimate musical performances or comedic roasts, enthralling her guests with that zesty, Hungarian-laced humor. Of course, entertaining was more than a pastime. It was a means for her to sustain connections, secure her brand, and remind the world that the Gabor charm was as alive as ever. Even as times changed, Hollywood shifting from the old studio system to the new wave of blockbusters, talk shows evolving into more sensational formats, Zsa Zsa kept her finger on the pulse of popular culture. She approached any scandal or personal challenge with unwavering comedic flair. One of the most notable events that brought her modern headlines, ironically, wasn't about her mansions or her marriages, but an infamous 1989 incident in which she slapped a Beverly Hills police officer during a traffic stop. Although she was fined and briefly jailed, she emerged from the ordeal with an unstoppable sense of humor, quipping about how the policeman didn't have a sense of humor, and turning the fiasco into late-night talk show material. Still, behind the comedic veneer, time and age carved their toll. By the early 2000s, Zsa Zsa encountered serious health challenges. She suffered a car accident in 2002 that left her partially paralyzed, requiring extensive medical care. Later, Complications led to the amputation of her right leg in 2011. Mounting medical expenses complicated the couple's finances, prompting them to list the Bel Air estate. While it initially went on the market for nearly $15 million in 2012, they worked out an arrangement with the new owner, a rent-back deal. Zsa Zsa and Frederick could remain in the home as long as they paid an annual fee of $325,000, ensuring she had the comfort of her beloved property in her twilight years. At around 4 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms, the Bel Air home was not massive by modern celebrity standards, but it exemplified the best of mid-century architecture, laced with Gabor flair. The formal dining room, large and stately, was reserved for smaller, more intimate dinners, though in earlier decades it might have hosted entire coteries of her fashionable friends, replete with candelabras and heavy table linens. One could imagine an ornate sideboard holding carefully selected Hungarian wines or French champagne, reflecting her background and love of good living. Adjacent to the dining area was a large lounge with built-in shelving, luminous windows, and, in some remodeling phases, a black and white checkered floor that exuded an air of old-world sophistication. Whether hosting members of the press, old Hollywood acquaintances, or newly minted stars, Zsa Zsa let her personal brand shine. Outside, the grounds were equally enchanting. A generously sized pool, embraced by a fringe of well-kept shrubbery and towering palm or eucalyptus trees, offered seclusion from prying eyes. She relished the idea that she could float in her pool or enjoy a quiet breakfast on the patio, hearing only the rustling of leaves and an occasional bird call, even though the swirling traffic and neon lights of Sunset Boulevard were not far below. The property's vantage point meant unobstructed views of Los Angeles, allowing those long, lingering glimpses at the city's skyline. As Zsa Zsa's health dwindled, her spirit stayed defiant. Throughout the 2000s, she endured hospital visits, multiple surgeries, and a complicated convalescence. Frederick Prince von Anhalt, who styled himself as a European prince, continued to speak for her publicly. All the while, her pink house in Palm Springs, by then owned by new caretakers, remained a piece of Gabor history, emblematic of the vivacious decades when she and her sisters were true desert royalty. Thank you for joining us on this vivid journey through Zsa Zsa Gabor's extraordinary homes and extraordinary life. If you enjoyed delving into her legacy and the timeless glamour that continues to enchant fans and property enthusiasts alike, please give a thumbs up to show your support and share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more explorations of iconic homes and the fascinating personalities behind them. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of Hollywood history brought back to life through these stories. Until next time, thank you for watching, and remember, life can always use a touch of sparkle.